Start. I'd like to welcome you out to our Layton City Council meeting for December 21st. It's actually our last council meeting for the year. So, as customary, we usually start with a pledge and a prayer. And this month, we have Council Member Zach Bloxham, who will be leading us in these activities.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If everyone will rise, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll follow it up with a prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to gather together as a city and as members of the council and the mayor and staff, and along with residents, to discuss the issues important to our city for this day. We're grateful to live in a wonderful place of safety, and we're grateful for all that thou hast blessed us with. We ask you to please be with us as we discuss the matters on our agenda today, that we can do so with an eye towards the best outcome for our citizens that we represent. We're grateful for those who work for the city and who serve us in all the aspects and help this be a wonderful place. We ask you to please bless our residents with safety as they travel around throughout this holiday season. And we offer these prayers and blessings and ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay, Council. Tonight we don't have any minutes, but we may have some municipal announcements. Does anybody have any of those to share with us tonight?
Just real quick, a reminder that the lights before Christmas are still out and beautiful, and our Parks and Recreation Department have put a lot of effort in throughout the year, preparing it every year, and the lights are on from 5 to 11 p.m. each night through December 31st. And I also want to confirm that they're also on in the morning, 7 o'clock this morning as I drove past. They were up and there was no lines. So go ahead and drive through on your way to work. Take the kids up there early before the sun comes out through the 31st of December. And the Duncan Express train runs Monday through Friday. Correct me now. Monday through Saturday, probably excluding Christmas Day.
Well, so the Express will continue to run tonight, tomorrow, and then Saturday would typically be the last night that we would run it. However, if it does snow, then we may not be able to run it on Saturday. So that's yet to be determined. But for the most part, yeah, you're down to the last few days to ride the Duncan Express.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other announcements? Okay. Seeing that there's none, we'll go ahead and jump down to our citizens' comment portion of our meeting. So if anyone in the audience is here to address the council, you're welcome to. If it's not on an item that's part of our public hearing, then otherwise you can wait and address us regarding the public hearing at that time. Okay, seeing that there's none, I'll go ahead and move on to our consent items then, which we have 4 items here on our consent item. Again, these are items that can be acted on a single motion, and they're up for discussion as well.
Madam Mayor, may I make a motion that we remove item C from the consent agenda and consider it separately?
Okay. I'll acknowledge that we'll remove item C off of the consent agenda for tonight and deal with it separately. Is there a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Seeing that that's the case, we'll go ahead and start with our first item on our consent item, which our new city attorney, Mr. Clint Drake, will address us regarding Resolution 2355.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an agreement with the city and Cellco, which is actually Verizon. They currently have a cell tower at our public works shop. at the address of, where is it? I just had it here. Sorry.
Fort Lane.
Yeah, Fort Lane. Sorry about that. And anyway, there's an existing cell tower there, and they would like to expand some of its capabilities. So this is an agreement that's been in the works, my understanding, for about a year. It was a little bit complex, but this allows for them to expand on that existing tower. They did need some additional space there, and we've vetted that with our public works and including our engineers, and they no impact to our operations or the facility there. So they've given the thumbs up, and basically, this is a term. It will be for an initial term of 5 years, with the ability to extend for an additional 5 years 4 times, so a total of 25 years. I've had people ask in the past, or council members ask in the past, why it needs to go out so long, and that's based on industry standards, and they need to have assurances that they can operate there and serve their customers out. For before they're going to expend the money into the infrastructure to serve. So the amount of the lease is consistent with the matrix that's been developed by the legal department, and it also includes an escalator clause that will increase that rent payment each year. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions regarding the cell tower? Okay, seeing there's none, we'll go ahead and move on to item B, which again, Mr. Drake will present that information to us.
Yep. So this is in 2016, the city entered into an agreement with Wasatch Integrated Waste Special Service District to have the option to purchase some property located up just that abuts next to the Hill Air Force Base at the end of Fairfield Road. There is quite a bit of development that's been going on there for over the past several years, and the city entered into this agreement to have the option to purchase an additional 25 acres, just under 25 acres in that area. We've negotiated a contract with Wasatch Integrated Waste to purchase that property for $2.45 million, which I would add is a huge value to the city, for the city. And with that, I would submit. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions regarding the purchase?
Madam Mayor, just that'll be part of the Eastgate Business Park?
Correct. Yep. It will be part of the Eastgate Business Park, and there will be we anticipate some great development to occur pretty quickly that will bring some really good jobs and industry to the city.
Similar question to Councilman Morris, just for the record for the residents, that we typically, city's not going to be just purchasing land for $2.45 million just to have it sit there, that there's a plan for this to be utilized in a development, that it's going to be beneficial to the taxpayers, that they're not just purchasing vacant land.
Correct. It's anticipated that the city will transfer this into the RDA, and it will be used almost immediately. It will be developed, and it will be a huge boon for the city. And like I might add once again that this is a really good purchase price for the city.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit of having an option on property several years ago. So, I mean,
Yep.
I think, it's fortunate that we're able to deal with this type of opportunity that's presented to us and want to exercise it. Mr. Jensen, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just going to add that the intention has been talked about is that the property would be made available for development. It'll be an aerospace firm that'll have it, but the RDA you'll ultimately decide, but the expectation is that ground will be sold at market or close to market. So this is not a situation where the city is acquiring property, then providing it to a developer. It'll be sold to a developer and then made available for as Clint said, a very significant aerospace development in that area that will have generational benefits. So it's a very, very positive thing economically for the city. The sale price will be well in excess of our purchase price based on the age of the option, but it's the benefit to the community in terms of jobs and valuation and those kind of things is significant and is really the great value, much more than the economic benefit from the purchase and then the sale.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead then and jump down to item number D. And Mr. Drake, would you mind handling that one as well?
Yeah, this is just an appointment to the North Davis Sewer District. The cities, all member cities of the North Davis Sewer District appoint a member to that board. It is proposed that the mayor be the appointee to that district board to serve for 2 years.
Okay. Council, is there any discussion on that? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead then and bring the action back to the council regarding our consent items that we have just spoke about, and then we can handle item C separately. So would one of the council members like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we approve the consent items as presented. That is Resolution 23-55 for the lease agreement between Layton City and Selco. That is also for Resolution 23-58, which is an adoption and approval for a real estate purchase agreement between Wasatch Integrated and Layton City. And item D, to appoint the mayor to the North Davis Sewer District Board of Trustees, Resolution 23-57.
Second.
It's been moved in second that we approve the consent items as presented. We can actually just do a all in favor vote on this. So all in favor of the consent items as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back to item number C on our consent item. So with that, Mr. Drake, do you mind presenting the information so that the council can decide what they want to do?
Yep, this is similar to the appointment to the North Davis Sewer District Board. This is for an appointment to the Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District Board. There's been conversations with the council in the work session regarding this topic. Mayor has been proposed as the appointee, and the council wanted to have discussion on that. And with that, I'd turn it over to the council.
Council?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I felt like we just had a pretty robust discussion in our work session about some actions taken by this board back in November, some votes taken, a resolution that we've had some concerns with, and we discussed those here in the meeting before. The duties that when you are appointed to a board or a commission, what can you do, what can't you do, what should you do, what you shouldn't do. And I think we've got some good information from Mr. Drake as to maybe a way forward with some guardrails in place. I felt like that was rushed at the end of that discussion, and felt like maybe some of us might have something else to say, or maybe some clarifying questions. With an appointment to the board of Mayor Petro, is there anything that we can add to instructions and something that she mentioned that she wanted to go back and look at those, that decision, and maybe work something out or rescind the resolution? Just wanted to open this up to the rest of us if we had any questions.
Yeah, I got a question. It says appoint a member. Okay. Does it have to be for 2 years? Can we just do it for 2 or 3 months till we see what happens with this resolution?
Yeah, you have the discretion to make that you could do a temporary appointment.
Yeah, because if we don't, then the mayor's off the board. I don't know how we have the option to move forward without somebody on the board. You know what I mean? To try and alleviate the problem that we have. And so, I don't feel it's, well, I know it's not the person as much as the situation. And we've got to deal with the situation, and we can't do it without a person. At least, I mean, I don't know how, and I'm not the most intelligent one here on the group here, but I don't know how we can, you know.
To speak into that, Clint, Dave's or Councilmember Thomas's question, you mentioned that multiple jurisdictions that you're aware of that also sit on this board, or you mentioned one specifically that sits on this board, does not actually appoint anyone to it until the new year.
Yeah, to my knowledge, that's pretty common practice that you'll see appointments in the first meeting in January.
And when
Or
is our
second.
first meeting in January? The 4th, January 4th. Do we know if there will be a Wasatch Integrated meeting the 2nd or the 3rd?
I can look.
There isn't.
There
isn't one that quick.
In that case, I think to your point, Councilman Thomas, I wouldn't want us to not have a member of the board, but I don't necessarily think that it would facilitate us or necessitate us to make a decision today, because there's not going to be a board meeting before we have our next meeting.
Right.
And
right.
so we would potentially
That's
be
all.
able-
I'm just worried that when it comes time to talk, we got nobody to talk.
Right. I would have a similar concern, but if there isn't a board meeting until then it isn't as time sensitive as it may
Right.
be otherwise.
There
And I-
will be a board meeting in January, though, so you will need to have somebody there.
Right. Yeah. And so we had and I appreciate Mayor's approving us to take this off and have it to a further discussion, because I do feel like all of us had some more to say about it. My hope is that if mostly that I would like to not just have the council be involved in these decisions, but to also in have the appointee have a better guidance in terms of what their responsibilities are. Because obviously in the decision that was made, it wasn't that there was anything that was done that you didn't do something that you were supposed to. It's just that there was no guidance in the actual appointment about what you're required to do or not, because we haven't had our ordinance updated since 1997. So I feel like this was going to happen at some point in time. It just happened to happen at this juncture during this vote. And so I would hope that I liked a lot of the suggestions that you had, Clint, about providing guidance to an appointee, particularly on the boards, that the 4 boards that we talked about that had a potential incurring a liability on taxpayers. I liked that language that you had. I thought it was spot on, because it would not only give us as a council the chance to be able to be involved, which I think we obviously should, but also gives the mayor or whomever is one of the appointees the understanding to know what's required of them, and that we all have a synonymous, a compatible relationship. So I think the most important thing is getting our ducks in a row for future meetings moving forward, with the understanding that this potential decision, as you mentioned, Clint, has lots of legal ramifications to it, and that's going to play out without us being involved. But I feel we would be remiss if we didn't continue to have this discussion and dialogue and have it continue, because I think it will help you be able to have discussions with the other parties potentially involved, other legal counsel potentially involved. And if we've just basically, acted tonight and decided that everything's hunky-dory, I think it almost makes the problem go away, because we have an appointment, it's been made, and now we have to go back and fix our own ordinance, when I feel like that's the cart before the horse. I think the horse has to be, we have to fix our ordinance first, or at least have discussions about that, about what that will look like, and then give whomever's an appointee on those 4 major boards the ability to do that. Because I had some hesitation with the appointment of the sewer board, not because I wouldn't vote for the mayor to be on that board. She'd do a great job. Just that's one of those boards that we talked about that doesn't have any guidance. And so it's not just specific to the Waste Management Board. I think it's the Sewer District Board, because the whole point of all of our discussions in the work meeting, and I think where I'm at on this, is that if the Wasatch Integrated Board wants to mandate recycling in the city of Layton, then the Council of Layton needs to be involved in that decision, because otherwise this is not representative government. We get to decide what the budget is for the city, and so I feel like that's something that we need to continue to have a discussion on, because I know I can speak for myself that we take any raise of funds generated from our citizens, whether they be taxes or fees, as sacred. It's their money, and if we didn't have a chance to be a part of that discussion, then something was amiss. And so that would be my hope, is that I don't think it's really time sensitive for us to have to agree to this resolution today, because there isn't an appointment, or isn't going to be a board meeting, and we need to have an appointment made. But until then, I think we can have a guidance for what we're going to do in the future. So that's where I'm at on it.
Councilman Roberts?
Clint, prior to my comments, can you repeat the process for the council or mayor to remove someone from one of these appointments? You
Yeah,
talked about it.
it's a pretty simple process. It similar to appointment, it requires advice and consent of the governing body. And so with regard to removal, the mayor, by our ordinance, has the authority to at least start the process of having somebody removed from an appointment. But it requires advice and consent of the council, which means it would require a majority of the council in order to do that. So the mayor and a majority of the council. Vice versa, the city council also has the ability to remove a member, an appointee from one of these appointment positions, but also requires advice and consent of the mayor. So in that situation, you would need a majority of the council and the mayor to agree to do that.
So there's some checks and balances there.
Correct.
Well, but so with that in mind, and I, like Councilmember Thomas said, it's not about the individual, it's about the position and about being represented, representing all of our residents. I think that's important. And I take that personally because I serve on the Mosquito Abatement Board, which is a similar board, has taxing power. And so with that in mind, the ability to remove, I would support advancing this resolution now with the intent, with the idea that we can remove someone at any time, or we can start that process and have that discussion. But also, especially if there's important discussions happening, even if it's not a board member or a board meeting, an official board meeting, resolutions get talked about before a board meeting. And there's a couple days in there that we would not be represented, being the biggest city in this special service district. So I would support going forward with this resolution tonight and appointing the mayor. And I would make that motion that we adopt resolution 23-56.
Okay, does anyone want to second that motion?
Can I amend it? I don't know. I don't know how to play the games here. Okay. Let me get my head straight here. My thought process, as I mentioned before, is not the individual as much as the process of having input on something that affects the city as much as it does. And so I feel I could second the motion if the things that we talked about are then taken care of at that meeting. like we talked about, maybe changing a resolution and doing things like that. I mean, taking direction from the council and doing that. And to me, that's what's important. I don't want to miss that opportunity. I don't want somebody telling me what I got to do when I don't know how I'm going to do it without somebody there, So that's my only difference between what you said and I guess what I said. And I don't know how to play the games and make it a different amendment, but whatever.
Okay, well, I'm not going to acknowledge the second then, only because I can see that Clint, do you want to chime in on this? In other words, I'm just going to say, let's continue the discussion, because I don't think you guys.
I guess my, so Councilman Bloxham mentioned the reservation of the sewer board, in that we haven't, and which I agree, the ordinance needs, I feel like we need to have our ordinance in place for sure. And I think there's time to do that. The difference I see between sewer board and the mosquito abatement board, there is a process. Those are taxing entities. There's truth in taxation that we all get to, whether we want to or we probably don't even want to go, but we get the opportunity to sit in front of that board and say, yeah, this, as citizens, we want that, we're okay with this or we're not okay with this. And so I don't feel like we're in the same situation with the sewer board and with the mosquito abatement. I have still issue with this, with the Wasatch Integrated, in that we still have legal questions about can they even do this? Can they even mandate cities to, even with a resolution, to mandate recycling and the fees, that punitive fees that come with that if we don't decide to do it. So I don't know if that helps us or doesn't help us to have someone appointed or not appointed.
Okay, maybe I'll weigh in here. Sure.
I substitute my motion that we adopt, or maybe it's a different resolution, that we appoint the mayor to serve on this board until our next meeting. Then we're covered if there's any days and if there's any discussions that happen in those first days of the year. And then we'll discuss it again in our next meeting to adopt the 2-year resolution, the two-year appointment.
But there's not going to be a meeting with
Yeah. Between now and the first of the year.
between the waste board.
That's right.
So what?
Why don't, okay, just because I want to weigh
So
in
why
on
are
this.
we waiting? I mean, in that
Just
respect.
as I said, discussions happen outside of meetings. And
Okay.
resolutions
Okay.
that are brought up in meetings are built prior to meetings.
Okay.
But just a point there that there would only be, because the mayor's still appointed till the end of the year, correct?
Right.
So there's only 3 days that she would not be appointed if you're in substitute motion.
Oh, yeah.
So I just had one question, just a clarifying question on that motion that was just made. So from our ordinances, you mentioned that the check that we have against the mayor is that we consent to him or her, their decision, and that their check on us is just them. So it's just a vote of one. So if the mayor hypothetically sits on a board that we as the council, all 5 of us decide we don't want that mayor, not Mayor Petro, but we don't want that mayor on the board. The mayor has the authority to deny us the ability to remove her or him from the board because they have that same check against us.
Correct. That's the way the ordinance is written now.
So if,
It's
I'm
okay, you guys.
sorry. So let's say Wasatch has their meeting on the 15th, and we have our second meeting on the 16th. Can we wait in January for 2 meetings?
Well, we have a meeting before that,
I understand.
so you would certainly have the opportunity to appoint at that meeting. So you're saying if there wasn't an
You
appointment?
said that there are cities that do not
Oh, yeah.
make
yeah.
those appointments till either the first or second meeting
Right.
of the month.
But that's entirely up to you as
That's
a
what
council.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
So we could make it, instead of the first meeting, the second meeting,
If you want, you could.
hoping that Wasatch has a meeting before that.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I think the mayor's looking at what I was just going to ask. Do we know, I think you were looking it up while we were talking, but I don't know if you completed that. Do you know when the next meeting is scheduled for
They
the
do not
Wasatch
have one
Integrated?
publicly noticed at the moment.
Okay.
I looked at their past meetings and it looks like, they're, this is in 2021, their meeting wasn't until, I saw the date, I think it was January 15th, January 21st. I don't know if that was their first or second meeting of the year. I will say that there's an opinion expressed to me by the director of Wasatch Integrated. It's the same issue, that he believes that the appointment continues until replaced. And so that's the position that they're operating from. It's the same question. Does our resolution that has an ending date trump what the Wasatch Integrated believes? So I will tell you from a standpoint of whether or not what their viewpoint is at the moment, they are considering Mayor Petro as a member and all the communication. She would still get all communications.
Are you clear? It's mud, yeah. Clear as trash. in other words.
That was I had a conversation with Nathan 2 or 3 hours ago, and he expressed that it's his belief that Mayor Petro would still be on the board until there's a different vote. And then, again, we can have that conversation. It's the same conversation, different, but a different thing. But as far as communication goes, that's what would happen.
Things you learn is all I'm going to say. As time goes on, you learn more. Okay, do you have any more discussion on this? Because what I was going to say is I will actually weigh in on this, and recognizing the situation, I'm willing to go back to the board, and like I said, I think I want to, I'm willing to push to try to have a resolution to recanter the effectiveness or the decision of what has been made, and see if we can have a new resolution brought back and kind of to them and kind of unfurl what's been presented or voted upon at this time. And I would go as far to say, depending on how that outcome is, I'm willing, if I'm not successful, well then, I can honestly look you in the eyes and say that I did my best work, and if you want to remove me, you're welcome to.
Removing you on the outcome makes no sense. Okay? I mean, if that be the case, then we're going to judge each other every time we make a decision. The thing that's worrisome is that outside entities have the ability to overrule a city. And that's the part we're fighting. And so quitting isn't what we're doing. What we're trying to do is resolve. And in my opinion, no one can do it better than you at this point. And so that makes no sense to me. And if we get turned down, then we go down another road. We don't quit. We don't say, okay, well, no, there's other avenues, I hope. Like you say, the law's not clear. And so maybe we can clarify it. And so I don't want to make a motion. I just want to say that let it hang until we get some information. And then when we get that information, then we can work as a group, similar to what we started when we found out the information and how it may affect us. So that's where I'm at.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Sure, you're welcome.
So in light of all of the discussion, as well as what Mr. Drake has presented, that the understanding of the Wasatch Integrated District is that the mayor is yet on the board. Us removing or not appointing or whatever does not necessarily change any of the things that can and or will happen. So I would like to make a motion that we accept or approve the mayor as the representative for this board for Resolution 23-56 with the expectation of this body, the council, that the mayor bring that resolution back to the Wasatch Integrated Board to remove that decision that was made previously. That would be the motion I would make, or that is the motion that I'm making.
That's a good, clear motion.
I can second that.
Okay. It's been moved in second that we continue then with the appointment with the instructions to incorporate a resolution to undo the decision that was made by the Wasatch Integrated Board. So, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay, I'll roll it 4-1 in favor of the appointment to the Wasatch Integrated Wasatch District or Resolution 2356.
Do we want a roll call vote on that since there was?
Yeah, you can do that. You want to do a roll call? Yeah.
Sure. Okay, let's go ahead and start down here with Dave.
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Clint?
I voted aye, and I'll explain that. I appreciate the motion Councilmember Smith Edmondson made with the hope that this can happen. I guess I'm giving you my confidence that whatever power you have now currently, that you can bring that to bear. At the same time, we still have to work on our ordinance, and and I think that's where Councilman Bloxham maybe is that has to be figured out. And then, so I guess my question for you, Mr. Drake, then is these appointments that are made before our ordinance is passed, are those retroactive, or?
No, the ordinance would apply.
The ordinance would apply moving forward. So I with that, I assume we're going to be able to figure that out with my confidence. Then for that reason, I'm voting aye.
I'd like to explain my vote as well. Councilman Morris, you're right. I think all of us hopefully agree that we need to do something with our ordinances, but I'm not willing to vote affirmatively, not because I don't believe the mayor would be fine on the board, but I'm not going to give Wasatch Integrated the final say on who's on the board and who's not. That's our job as a city council. We get to decide. So if our ordinance says that this person ends their term at the end of the year, that's when they end. It can't just be that the Wasatch Integrated not only can raise taxes and fees on us without our consent, now they get to tell us who's on the board, that they can serve for as long as they want. And I just don't think that's the proper role of government. So I'm going to vote no, again, with the understanding that I know and hope that the mayor will move forward and try to see what she can do, because we definitely have, this isn't a vote of no confidence in you. It's just the circumstances, and particularly with the idea that not giving Wasatch Integrated the preference over our own ordinances.
Okay. Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, council. And like I said, you've heard what I've said, and I'll continue to work hard on this. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and carry on then with our meeting tonight. We've completed our consent items, so now we'll move down to our public hearing portion of our meeting, which is a rezone request. And Mr. Chad Wilkinson will present that information to us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the mayor said, this is a rezone request for approximately 15.4 acres. The property shown there with the red dot there on the screen. It's about 250 north, 1550 west. Just a little bit more context for the zone change request. You can see the properties outlined in red there with the cross hatching. You've got the Pinehurst subdivision here to the west, Mary's Meadows to the east, some intervening agricultural ground there between those two. To the north is some BRP zoning, and then you can see Gentile Street here to the south. The proposal is to change the zone from A agriculture to R110. This proposal is consistent with the general plan that calls for low-density residential within this area. R110 is considered to be a low-density residential zone. This proposal is submitted in anticipation of a subdivision of the property that will come forward at a future date to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. It's anticipated this will be just a standard R110 subdivision, not a PRUD. Here's just a quick look at that plat of that, of the legal description platted out there for that zone change. I want to go back to the aerial photo for just one moment. There will be some potential street connections from the Pinehurst subdivision to the west to this future subdivision. Tonight's meeting, though, again, is about the zone change. That subdivision will come through at a future date. So this was reviewed by the Planning Commission, and they did vote unanimously to recommend that the council approve the requested zone change. And staff would echo that and would ask that the council approve ordinance 23-26, approving this zone change from A-Ag to R110. Happy to answer any questions if I can.
Council, do you have any questions? If you don't have any questions at this time, then I'd look for a motion to open our public hearing.
I don't have a question. I just did want to make a statement that it is nice, and we did talk about this in the work meeting, to see some development here in the residential 110. So these lot sizes, 10,000 square feet, not, a lot of the high density that residents generally have issue with. So it is nice to see some single family of this size being brought forward. So with that, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 23-26.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this time time is now yours in the audience, or anyone who wishes to speak regarding the rezone request. You're more than welcome to come up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jordan Harris. I'm at 304 North Blue Spruce Drive. I live in the neighborhood that's adjacent or will be connecting to this new neighborhood. Everyone that I've talked to in our community is supportive of the change. A couple items of concern that we aired to the Planning Commission, and I want to repeat here, are the traffic into the neighborhood. I think we'd like to see traffic controls put in place to help. There's issues with speeding on Blue Spruce, and then the adjacent Cold Creek is often congested at the charter school. So I'm not sure what those measures would look like, but we'd like to see some thought put into that.
Okay.
And a second concern is the Pinehurst subdivision is an HOA, and it pays to maintain green space. There's a park that will be accessible, and we can assume that the new residents will make use of that. During the Planning Commission, I raised the question if this new neighborhood would be required to have a green space of its own, and they said it was a good question, but I wasn't sure if that venue or this venue is the right one to air that question. But we feel that should be given some consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Is it possible for me to inquire when that might be something that would be considered, or who would I ask?
Okay. Typically, Chad, would you be able to address this for us? But I was going to say, typically what we do is we go ahead and hear most of the comments, and then we'll address them at once.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who wish to speak in regards to the public hearing at this time? Okay, if not, then Chad, I'm going to have you come up and address the question.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I think I can address the question about the open space tonight. This development, if it comes forward as a standard subdivision, would not be required to have any kind of open space dedication as part of their development. They're fairly close to a large regional park there, so there is no code requirement for them to provide their own open space. Certainly, anyone that we would expect that the folks that live in Pinehurst could enforce their ability to not have other people outside of their subdivision using their open space, but there wouldn't be any kind of a requirement. With regard to traffic, that'll be something that we'll look at during the subdivision. These are all roads that are expected to carry, have the capacity to carry the expected traffic from this subdivision, so we don't anticipate any major traffic concerns, but that will be an issue we look at the subdivision stage of this development.
Okay, so for tonight, we're just dealing with the rezone.
Yeah, and there will be, at the time the subdivision goes forward, there'll be another opportunity at the Planning Commission for folks to make comments and bring up concerns.
Okay. Council, do you have any additional questions or concerns? If not, then I'll bring it back to you to close the public hearing and take action.
I just wanted to comment on what Chad mentioned in response to Mr. Harris's questions. Because tonight we're just doing a rezone and we're not doing the full development and all of the things, there are multiple opportunities for public comment and for the public to weigh in. I know a lot of times residents and others who watch these proceedings or come and attend, they're not clear on if decisions have been made already or not. And so I appreciate you for coming in early, going to the Planning Commission meeting, coming here as well and expressing your concerns, because I do feel the more that people express their concerns about a thing, the more it's in the minds of those who are making those decisions. So I just encourage you to continue doing that, even though we're not at the phase where those things are necessarily taking place now, or they can't be made decisions can't be made now. But the fact that you're bringing it up, I think, is helpful. And so continue, please, to do that.
Okay. Somebody going to make the motion?
Sure, I'll do that. I just didn't know if anybody else had any comments, but I move that we approve the rezone request for ordinance 23-26 for the Amber Fields residential development or rezone.
And close the public hearing?
And close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved in second that we approve the rezone request. I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. So I'll start down here with Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilman Bloxham.
Yes.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith Edmondson.
Yes.
And Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, there you have it. It's unanimous that we accept, or it's been approved, ordinance 23-26. So that's actually the last item on our agenda for tonight. Council, do you have anything else that you'd like to bring or any unfinished business?
Sorry, heavy on the talking tonight. I just wanted to know, and maybe this is for Mr. Drake, what we need to do as a council to ensure that the ordinance, the prior ordinance that we discussed about the appointments and whatnot, how that gets on our radar officially. And so that's why I waited to bring it up during unfinished business. If we need to put that on the record for some date that we want to have that addressed by, so staff can be working on something for us.
Yeah, it might be important to have the city manager chime in on this too, as I'm new to the organization, but I just need direction on what I need to do, and then we can get it on the agenda, so.
So can that come from us tonight, or is that something that needs
Yeah, you can give me direction right
sure.
now.
I'm willing to acknowledge
If
that.
you'd like it for the next council agenda, we can work on it.
I would like to, direct you
Yeah.
to put something together for that ordinance change so that we can update. I don't remember the number. I think it was 2.08 point.
It's probably going to be a few of them. There will be other sections that are impacted, but yes, the one that was discussed in the work session.
Yes.
Yep.
So specifically, that one is of utmost importance at this time, and then I'm sure we'd want to look at the rest of those since it's been since I graduated from high school. since the ordinance was actually updated.
Yeah.
So I would like for us to have something before us in time for the next work meeting,
Yep.
January 4th,
And I just
2024.
typically, it doesn't need to be a vote, but I just need a nod that, yeah, this is what the council wants. So I'm seeing everybody seems to be in agreement, so.
Yeah. I think so. Mr. Tyson, go ahead.
I'm going to be out of town and here remotely on that meeting. I would prefer to maybe push it back to the next meeting, if that's okay with the rest of the council.
Well, and I may chime in also, depending on what items come before us, like in the week between Christmas and New Year's, there's a possibility we might not have enough items for a meeting, because I think at this point, we only have one set of minutes. So that might be prudent to go ahead and push it to the second meeting
Okay.
in January, second scheduled meeting.
And I would rather have a full quorum, full council in attendance to discuss it.
So we'll have it ready for the second meeting in January.
Is that ample time for you?
Yeah,
Is that
that's
okay?
helpful for us.
Better
It's-
time, I'm sure.
We got people in and out of the office next week and things like that, so this will be helpful. Yeah.
All right. Did you have something?
Yeah, just one related to Bettina's request. She made a very specific motion on the Wasatch Integrated on the board. That information, how does that get relayed to those directions and instructions to the mayor? And what, I guess we didn't talk about a time period of when we want to have that done and resolved, and at least here's what's happened.
Yeah, so that, at this point, that action's done, but I think the direction was pretty clear, and you can bring it up, anytime as any other, whenever, again, being new here, what the typical process is to have something put on the agenda by a city council member or members, then you can just do it that way.
So just to restate, excuse me, Mayor, I did say expectation that it would be brought up at the next meeting for whatever, for Wasatch Integrated
Yeah.
Board. So whatever their next board meeting is, but we don't know what that date is presently. And so not knowing what that date is, it would be the expectation, obviously, that as the mayor is the representative, would be giving us that information. She would learn that probably before we would, of when the next meeting would be. And then that would give us time to discuss further, what we would like to see, what kind of information we want from that outcome or from that meeting.
Well, and I think in the meantime, I think I get with our council and draft up a proposed resolution to present. Right.
Hey, one more item, Mayor, if that's okay. With the opening of the West Davis Highway on the 6th,
Yep, January 6th,
are we
10 a.m.
going to open the road comes off our interchange, or what? How does that look?
2700 West?
Yeah, yes.
Sure, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, the anticipation is that the intersection that's currently being constructed, the signalized intersection at 2700 West and Gentile, will be fully functional before then. We intend to coordinate the openings because there will be traffic coming through there. The balance of the road going north, of course, will not be opened at that point in time, but a safe, controlled intersection will be opening and functioning to coincide with the opening of the corridor.
And just kudos to Public Works and planning and engineering on, you made a commitment to have our interchange done before, or our ramp, I guess, road done before they were done, and good job. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Oh, okay, let's keep going.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
I was just going to say, there's only one last thing to say tonight, and that says that I hope that everyone has a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and that you're able to spend a lot of time with your loved ones. And remember those that might not be, have loved ones close by, just at least kind of reach out to them and share the love of what this time of year is all about. So with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I motion we adjourn.
Thank you.